Well, recently I did a video, actually I think it was my last one, that raised some questions regarding this underwear bomber. And it was suggested by one of my viewers that I may compromise my credibility on here raising such questions because it falls under the rubric of conspiracy theories. So let me just read you an article which was published yesterday by Paul Craig Roberts, who is hardly a conspiracy theorist. Roberts was Assistant Secretary of the Treasury under Ronald Reagan, and he's raising the exact same questions that other people are raising. So here it goes. What are we to make of the failed underwear bomber plot, the toothpaste, shampoo, and bottled water bomber plot, and the shoe bomber plot? These blundering and implausible plots to bring down an airliner seem far removed from Al-Qaeda's expertise in pulling off 9/11. Are we to believe that the United States government, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and the alleged Al-Qaeda mastermind behind 9/11 outwitted the CIA, the NSA, indeed all 16 U.S. intelligence agencies, and those of our allies as well, including the Mossad, the National Security Council, NORAD, air traffic control, airport security, 4 times in one morning, with untrained and inexperienced pilots pulling off the feats of crashing hijacked airliners into the World Trade Center and into the Pentagon with a battery of state-of-the-art air defenses which somehow failed to function. After such amazing success, Al-Qaeda would have attracted the best minds in the business, but instead it seems to have been reduced to amateur stunts. The underwear bomb plot is being played to the hilt on television, especially Fox News. After reading recently that the Washington Post allowed lobbyists to write a news story that preached the lobbyists' interest, I wondered if the manufacturers of full body scanners were behind the heavy coverage of the underwear bomber, if not behind the plot itself. In America, everything is for sale. Integrity has gone to the wind. Recently, I read a column by an author who has a convenience theory about the underwear bomber being a Nigerian allegedly trained by Al-Qaeda in Yemen. As the U.S. is involved in an undeclared war in Yemen, about which neither the American public nor Congress were informed or consulted, the underwear bomb plot provided a convenient excuse for Washington's new war, regardless of whether it was a real attack or a false flag. Once you start to ask yourself about whose agenda is being served by these events and their news spin, other things come to mind. For example, last July there was a news report that the government in Yemen had disbanded a terrorist cell which was operating under the supervision of Israeli intelligence services. Could the underwear bomber have been one of the Israeli terrorist recruits? Certainly Israel has an interest in keeping the U.S. fully engaged militarily against all potential foes of Israel's territorial expansion. The thought brought back memory of my Russian studies at Oxford University, where I learned that the Tsar's secret police set off bombs so that they could blame those whom they wanted arrested. I next remembered that Francesco Cossiga, the president of Italy from 85 to 92, revealed the existence of Operation Gladio, a false flag operation under NATO auspices that carried out bombings across Europe in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. These bombings were blamed on communists and were used to discredit communist parties in elections. An Italian parliamentary inquiry unearthed the fact that these attacks were overseen by the CIA. And yes, they did include killing innocent civilians, including women and children, so that it could force the public to turn to the state to ask for more security. What a coincidence. That's exactly what happened on 9/11. And that's exactly what happened following 9/11 here in the United States. Among the well-meaning and the gullible in the West, the supposition still exists that government represents the public interest. Political parties keep this myth alive by fighting over which party best represents this interest. In truth, the government represents private interests, those of the office holders themselves and those of the lobbying groups that finance their political campaigns. The public is in the dark regarding the real agenda. The U.S. and its puppet state allies were led to war in the Middle East and Afghanistan entirely on the basis of lies and deception. The willingness of the people to believe their rulers and the propaganda ministries that serve the rulers is astonishing. Many Americans believe Iran has nuclear weapons programs, despite the unanimous conclusion of all 16 U.S. intelligence agencies that they don't. You know, even in Stalinist Russia, a totalitarian system where everyone knew that there was no free press, a gullible and intimidated public and the Communist Party enabled Joseph Stalin to put the heroes of the Bolshevik Revolution on show trial and execute them as capitalist spies. In the U.S., we are developing our own show trials. Sheikh Mohammed will be the first big one. As Chris Hedges recently pointed out, once government uses demonized Muslims to get a new justice system in place, the rest of us will be next. I'll post a link to that article. Thanks for listening.